My name is John Myatt. In my time I've been a teacher, a painter and an art forger. In 1999 I was jailed for forging over 200 paintings, a crime that rocked the art world, and I paid the price for it. These days I paint in the style of the great masters and sell them legally as honest fakes. And I've started teaching the tricks of my trade to aspiring artists because all painters can learn by copying others. Today we'll be painting in the style of an artist who changed landscape painting forever, Claude Monet. There's always that moment in every single painting when you think, damn, damn.
And that was a difficult part.
I don't quite know what to do with it.
For today's class, we've come to the heart of the English countryside to study this beautiful landscape in all its glory. I've known this place all my life, and what I love about living in this part of Staffordshire is that there's something timeless about the landscape here. Over the centuries, hundreds of artists have used the landscape in many different ways, but in the late 19th century, one French artist in particular changed the way he looked at the landscape and painted it with an immediacy that had never been seen before. This was Claude Monet. Born in Paris in 1840, Monet rejected the safe option of the family grocery business for the uncertain world of art and went on to become one of the greatest ever Impressionist painters. These young artists used dabs of unblended colour to create an impression of their subject. With many small brushstrokes, they captured the effects of light and shade in a way that no one had ever done before. Today I'll be showing 3 budding artists how to use some of these effects, and we'll be hoping that Monet can make yet another great impression, this time on these students. They'll have just one day to create a French Impressionist masterpiece.
My name is Margaret Pritchard and I'm from Hagley in Worcestershire. I'm retired, but I consider myself as a professional artist.
I'm Kevin Cunningham. I'm a portrait painter. I'm originally from Ayrshire in Scotland, and I now live in Notting Hill in London.
My name's Emma Ferguson. I'm from Solihull and I'm an art student.
I would describe my paintings as being semi-abstract because they come out of my imagination, they're what I feel and how I see things.
I'm hoping that there may be some opportunity to emulate the Impressionists. I've always been inspired by them.
I think it'd be really interesting and a different way of learning about an artist rather than reading a book or looking him up on the internet, just to really try and get into that artist's shoes and have a go. It'd be amazing.
Painting in the style of Monet is a very difficult thing for any artist. I hope these 3 are up to it. Emma, Margaret, Kevin, welcome to this beautiful view of the English landscape. Your challenge today is to see this landscape through the eyes of one of the greatest landscape painters who ever lived. Claude Monet, Path Through the Poppy Field, Vethwy, 1880.
I'm surprised.
Who were you?
Yes, because I was thinking it might be Van Gogh.
Were you hoping it was going to be?
I was hoping it was going to be Van Gogh.
Well, I mean, there's some quite Van Gogh-y moments here.
Yes, there are.
You know,
yeah.
You've got your red dot of paint.
I've got red dots.
I'm going to enjoy this, I think. I'm a bit nervous, but...
We sort of get, well, I guess it was going to be an Impressionist. I'm just glad it's not Renoir.
If my students are to produce an authentic painting, it's vital that they get the composition right. Monet defined the landscape through different spaces. Here you have the foreground. There's the, as it were, this along here, the middle ground, and then this kind of, not much detail here. If you look at the detail we can see here, I think we almost have lost it. Just the indication of the church at Vethwy and a few of the little houses down here, and that's it. So I'm going to ask you to sort of try and see it that way, that if you can see it as foreground, middle ground and background, and of course sky, which is crucial here, we'll have done the job. And by all means, Margaret, by all means, fluke a few poppies in. Poppies are okay. We get them here from time to time, so you're absolutely, you know, no problem with poppies. The challenge really is that you have to really complete something approximating to a Monet and go through that experience that he would have gone through in less than a day now. So fingers crossed for good weather. Remember that you're looking for atmospheric effects where you can find them. Okay? So, good luck.
Thank you.
Bon voyage.
The sky could be a problem. It keeps changing. But that's one of the perils of painting outside.
In front of you, you've got your paints, you've got your brushes, you've got water. But also you've got these little frames here. Might be a good idea just to hold this up in front of you, just to establish the composition in your mind's eye where you're going to have the foreground and how much foreground and how much middle ground, how much sky, etc. Having done that, can we just bypass the drawing stage? We're not going to try any sketches. Let's get straight in and start painting.
Because I'm not stuck in a certain style of painting, I have the ability to adapt very easily.
I've always been very good at chucking paint around, and though it might not be what I intended at the start, it always comes out okay at the end, so, you know, I'm excited to see what I do.
I was quite pleasantly surprised of all the impressions. Probably that's the one that maybe my style, although I'm a portrait painter, would be more suited to, slightly loose and more vibrant. I know roughly what his technique is, I think.
So, Kevin, you're going to go for a portrait format on the landscape. A bit actually like the Monet over there.
I feel it'd be much tighter and.
Yeah. Good, well done. I would like you to try, everybody, if you can, to get something in the foreground here, even if it's only just this tree here on the extreme left or the right of the painting, just so we can establish a foreground. Because if we can't establish a foreground, we can't establish a middle ground either. Absolutely lovely. Good.
That's because I'm very afraid of a white canvas.
White canvas is a total killer, and we need to just get rid of it as quickly as we can. Are you going to use any of this bramble stuff here?
Yeah, all this bramble stuff is coming in.
I think you're doing a good thing there. So we're not having the tree there.
No,
so
I'm just having
this area
all that
here,
bramble.
with these lovely blackberries,
Yeah.
is your foreground.
And in it will come some of those yellow things.
Okay. Oh, you got it.
They'll come into it. You know, they're not there, but
Well, you can have some poppies here.
I'm a bit worried that Emma hasn't touched her canvas yet.
I still think you should have something kind of, you know, possibly using that tree here as a foreground element.
Course, yeah. I was going to do a bit of chop and paste, to be honest.
You're going to jiggle it all around.
Yeah.
Like the creative genius you are. I think that's a
don't
very
know
good.
about that.
Well, why not? I mean, no one's going to come and bring your painting back here, are they? In 3 or 4 years' time, saying, "No, she got that tree in the wrong place, didn't she?"
That's why I like painting nature and stuff no one knows. I haven't painted in the style of Monet, so it's going to be a new challenge for me. If I can get anywhere close to it, then that would be very impressive for me. I'd be very chuffed with myself.
Monet's painting style in the 1860s was actually something like this, plein air paintings, painting quickly at the actual, on the beach or in the landscape. Later on, through the 70s and 80s, and particularly into the 1890s and beyond, the paintings were finished in the studio, really. If they were begun outside, they were usually completed in the studio over a course of several years in some cases. So, in fact, here we're asking an awful lot of people to come up with a result.
We've got a runner-up here for the BP Portraiture Award. But can Kevin paint a landscape?
Kevin, have you got any plans to actually use this as a white? Are you thinking of this as an actual white moment and right the way through?
Yeah, I was going to use that to draw your eye into it. It's probably going to be a bit more. I was drawn to that little place
huts.
anyway, but
Yeah.
there's just, I know he doesn't have anything in the foreground there, but the something.
That
quite
gable end
structured.
could actually be very useful to us, couldn't it? Actually, as a pure white moment,
Yeah.
almost blank canvas, if you like, and we'll just build the whole thing around that. Remember just how dark some of the the foreground is, just how dark it is, and how light the sky is, and the difference between the two. You've only got, as I'm looking at it, I can see, is it a wheat field or an oat field there, and there again quite a light grassy moment ahead, but most of the other tone values of the trees, of the grass, are very dark, and even the sort of line of trees in the background is quite dark.
What is Emma doing with her hand?
It's just easier for me to have something in my hand or on my hand to match the colours.
Now is the time really when they've got to start thinking about tone values more than anything else, even more than the use of colour. Monet was a very accurate use of tone values. If you could imagine the painting in black and white, Monet would have made it work in black and white, in tones, in the subtle tones of grey. So I'm hoping that I'm perhaps even starting to see that come in a couple of instances. I'm a bit worried about Margaret across there on the far side, because she seems to be getting bogged down with a tree trunk.
If your painting isn't going to plan, you should just stop and stand back for a minute or two to see the bigger picture, and that's what Margaret should be doing right now.
There was someone who actually said one brush mark in front of nature is worth 1,000,000 brush marks in the studio, because there is, in a way, a sense of validity, a sense of truth in about that thing where you see it and you paint it. And if you try and tidy it up later, the marks aren't as valid, you're not in the right place, and the painting quite often doesn't work as well. This is just gorgeous. I mean, that is lovely. It's expressive, the feel is right, the paint's going on right, it's put on with feeling. But that isn't our painting. This is our painting. So I don't know, you know, I want to see the kind of a tonal unity coming. And once you've done that, then you're motoring. Kevin's having a look at the Monet. It's interesting, isn't it? That's really interesting that he's gone up to look at that painting. Well done, Kevin. That's a jolly good move, Kevin.
It's easy to forget what you're doing.
Because we're trying to get a Monet here. I love the way your painting's coming on.
I forgot I was doing a Monet, that's the problem.
These days, you can pick up a Monet for a cool 18 million or so. But at the start of his career, Monet earned just a few pounds for a finished canvas.
The art establishment dismissed his work, and he was reliant on the support and help of friends to make ends meet. But despite constant setback and rejection, Monet's work almost never became sombre and depressing. He single-mindedly pursued this goal of perfecting his technique, of using light and colour and shade to express the world around him, which distinguished his paintings from everything else that was going on at that time.
While this is going on, I'm going to take a bit of time out to add a few touches to my very own Monet.
Henry! And this is my version of Monet's Japanese bridge over the water lily pond here. This is just green. Trade emulsion is always, if you can get your hands on it, is better than the stuff you get from just normal emulsion, only because trade emulsion is, there's more pigment, because it's used by professionals. They get a slightly better deal. But if you just open up an account at your paint shop, you can get trade emulsion easily. You don't have to be a registered painter and decorator to get a hold of it. I've always found it very strange that the so-called art experts never actually picked up on the fact that I was using household emulsion paint to create these so-called 20th century masterpieces that I did. And I was just so used to using these kind of materials that I never thought to change my methods. But when these paintings were actually authenticated by, you know, people whose job it was to authenticate paintings, it did come as a real shock. I've had quite a few private commissions, of course, in the past for paintings by Claude Monet, and as often as not, you don't sign confidentiality agreements, but you don't mention any names. But I mean, if I sort of mentioned the footballing profession, that probably wouldn't be going too extreme. No, that kind of area.
Now it's time to see if our students have managed to get to grips with Monet yet.
Emma, I just love your clouds. I just think that you don't even touch them anymore. Leave them. Maybe heighten a bit with white somewhere.
I was going to go back. That's like
Were you going to do it again?
No. I was going to put more. I like to run your hands over it, be able to touch the clouds.
Yeah, so maybe just work your fingers in.
Yeah.
But the sense of structure we've got here already, it'd be a shame to lose that.
I wanted to get sort of. Oh, it's not very Monet, but I like the dark clouds over there.
Monet did dark clouds.
I'm still thinking about Turner's.
You think?
Monet would have several paintings of the same landscape on the go at the same time, each canvas portraying different light conditions, so he could always continue working on one of them.
Unless you put a lot of interest in the clouds and, you know, go for that bright blue and these kind of big cumulus jobs which are going over here now. I think just to have it as a bland shape, and also I'm getting a bit worried about the kind of the yellowiness of this green.
Yeah.
I don't see it out there.
No.
I see a much darker green.
The blocks are still there, you know. I need to do a lot more work, putting a lot more of the colour that exists at the front of the painting.
By the late 1870s, Monet at last began to receive critical recognition and people started buying his work. But in 1879, his wife Camille died, leaving him with 2 young sons to take care of. Devastated, Monet began painting the same subjects in different light over and over again.
These series paintings were immediately successful. They met with critical and public acclaim. The Poplar series, the Haystack series, the Cathedral series, all great successes.
But success meant little when there was no one to share it with. Monet soon married Alice Hocheday, a wealthy widow and long-time family friend.
They moved to Giverny together, and eventually they were able to purchase the property. And here he was able to indulge his other passion of gardening. Eventually he was able to divert the local river through his grounds and to create the lily pond and to build the Japanese bridge over it and to create, in the last 25 years of his career, those signature paintings for which he is now world famous.
Monet never lost his passion for light and shade. Time to see how the students are doing.
I don't quite know what to do with it, to change it.
You've got to
Otherwise I shall run it into...
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things you could do is lighten. Can I just borrow your brush for a minute? What I was hoping to actually see was that all the green areas broken up with just many different kinds of green.
Yes, that's right. It's
breaks it, doesn't it?
yes.
It doesn't. And also,
it was too much a sort of...
These edges are always kind of broken. It's got a lot braver and bolder, Margaret,
Yes,
in the last half hour. And I think what it's all about now is it's about this shape against all these others.
Yeah.
And if it's about that, it works.
Yes,
You know,
it is, isn't it?
It's quite
It's the sky and that shape needs to be left.
Can I suggest, I'm not going to paint for you, but may I suggest that in this foreground area we actually use a series of marks like this, which actually just indicate what's here.
I've noticed kind of the contours and the hills as well, to sort of have, you know, kind of the brush marks working in that direction. So that's what I'm going to do anyway. So I don't have a tantrum and wreck it.
Tantrums are all part of the thing. There's always that moment in every single painting when you think, damn, damn, and double damn, and a few other profanities we can't actually utter at this point. Do you know he destroyed so much of his paintings? He destroyed 26 to go, of his Lily Pond series. Just had a complete tantrum.
I didn't know that. Okay.
His Mornings on the Seine, I think he painted 26 and he destroyed about 5. Shame, really. So don't worry about tantrums. Tantrums are us.
I've got to remember that I'm doing Monet, but half of it's trying to think how he may have thought. The technique is absolutely incredible and it's really hard to do.
I wonder if these brushes are doing the job for you. Can I just... I don't know. I mean, they seem to be...
They're not the kind of brushes I would work with, but I'm not going to be a bad tradesman and blame his tools.
No, but all the same. I think maybe if you charge them just a bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just... And then it would leave the brush, I think, in a rather more Monet-type way if it was just, you know...
It's more precise, actually, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a bit more precise.
It's almost, I feel like I'm learning his technique on the job, you know. He must have searched to find that stroke, you know. So that's why I've started off like a caveman, almost hacking into the canvas. And now that you've shown me, it's obviously a more refined, gentle stroke, yeah.
The first part of the job is to block it out, and that is basically a brutal business. And then we get more and more subtle as we go on, until we end up with these delicate little feathery movements here, which are actually, which is, I think, where you need to be going now.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Well
Thank
done.
you. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm getting very worried about Margaret.
I'm just fed up of looking at this here and thinking there are so many different kinds of green we could get in there, and I can only see one bloody green, and I want to see 20 or 30 different kinds of greens. You know, he would have done, so you've got to.
Eventually, even Monet lost his edge.
Old age struck the greatest tool a painter has, his eyes. And Monet had a series of cataract operations and took to wearing tinted glasses, which some people say affected the colour of much of his later work. A lifelong smoker, Monet died from lung cancer aged 86. He requested a simple funeral with few mourners, and he will be remembered as a man whose courage and innovation brought art into the modern era.
We're getting to the end of our day now, just time for a few final touches.
I feel if I go any further now, I'll overwork it. I'm quite happy about the kind of catching the spirit of Monet, or the way it worked. Technically, I'm miles away. It certainly doesn't look like one.
By putting these different sort of greens and breaking down the shapes. That's what I'm doing, I hope. Putting the Monet, not even back into it, but putting the Monet into it.
It's been really hard for me to step back from how I'm used to painting a picture and actually paint it in the style of someone else. I'm just going to try and finish it, at least.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. You've all worked very hard, but now is the time to put our brushes down and to have a look at the finished result. So, Kevin, let's have a look at your painting in the frame in all its glory. Here we go. What do you think?
I'm reasonably pleased with it, yeah.
Looks impressive.
It doesn't look like a Monet, but although he's in there somewhere.
Compositionally, I think you've got it exactly right. You know, you established that weight there. You've got the way this tone speaks here and brings the eye in. It's exactly what he would have done. You've got the foreground, you've got the middle ground, and you've got the background. I don't think it's much of a Monet, but I think it's a lovely painting. You know, it just goes to show how hard it is, doesn't it, to do this?
I'm very pleased with what I produced today, pleasantly surprised. And the experience itself was less dramatic than I thought it might be. And very enjoyable, and actually I feel quite invigorated, which is quite a surprise.
OK, Emma, it's time to look at your painting, your completed painting in its frame. Here we go. Doesn't it look lovely?
I'm wishing it was a bit more finished. This side I feel is completed, and but I wanted it to have a bit more texture throughout, kind of thing, and then...
You mentioned texture. You keep on about texture. Now, just for my own person, what do you mean by texture?
Sorry, I don't know. I like the idea that you'd be able to run your hands over the painting and feel the kind of
body of paint. OK. This has a flavour of Pierre Bonnard and also a flavour of some of the better Renoir landscapes. It's loose, yet it actually, the eye can always construct something from it. You've got a sort of career there, if you wanted one.
I feel I know I can relate to Monet a bit more and what he's trying to achieve with the brush strokes and stuff. He's got a very sort of loose kind of approach to his painting. Whether I'll ever be able to put myself 100% into his mindset is another question, but I feel I've got a step closer to the way he was thinking.
Right, Margaret, we're going to have a look at your painting in its frame. And what do you think?
Well, I'm speechless for a little bit.
I would only say this is the one that worried me most for the longest. And I thought for quite a long time, while we had these livid yellowy greens up here, it had that kind of, it had that look of an amateur painting, which you sort of, you think, oh dear.
I felt it was a challenge, and it's the first time I've completed a painting outside.
This idea is of a shape like this, coming across in this almost abstract way in the painting, is a Monet compositional idea. You've got it.
Yeah.
You've done that, and that is a result.
When I get home, I think I might have a go at a Picasso, but I don't think I can ever be good enough to forge a Monet.
It's been a great day, but not for copying Monet. Kevin couldn't stop being Kevin after all. Emma proved she could have a great artistic career ahead of her. And Margaret almost drove herself, and me, to abstraction. They're all good artists in their own right, so why didn't anybody conquer the Impressionist challenge?
An Impressionist painting is a transaction between the artist's eye and what he perceives and the brush on the canvas, and we didn't have that there. However, we've got the students on the start of that journey, haven't we? We've got them, and perhaps you as well, to understand it's not easy to do this. It's a hard thing. It's a process. And it's a process of understanding the genius of Claude Monet.